The Prince is coming by the 1:45. That means he'll be here in time for tea. Well, I do call that nice." No answer being made to this remark, the lady at the head of the table repeated it, adding, "I'm sure you'll like him. He's such a gentleman, if you know what I mean." Miss Cliff raised her eyes from her own correspondence. "Sorry, Aunt Ermintrude, I wasn't attending. The Prince? Oh, yes. Then the big car will be wanted to meet the train. I'll see to it." "Yes, do, dearie." Mrs. Carter restored the Prince's letter to its envelope and stretched out a plump arm towards the toast rack. She was a large woman, who had enjoyed in youth the advantages of golden hair and a pink and white complexion. Time had committed some ravages with both these adjuncts, but a lavish use of peroxide and the productions of a famous beauty specialist really worked wonders. If the gold of Ermintrude's carefully waved hair was a trifle metallic, the colour in her cheeks was all and more than it had ever been. Artificial light was kinder to her than the daylight, but she never allowed this tiresome fact to worry her, applying her rouge each morning with a lavish yet skilled hand which recalled the days when she had adorned the front row of the chorus, and touching up her lashes with mascara, or, in her more dashing moments, with a species of vivid blue that was supposed to deepen the perfectly natural blue of her eyes. The exigencies of this facial toilet apparently exhausted her matutinal energy, for she never put on her corsets until fortified by breakfast, and invariably appeared in the dining-room in a robe of silk and lace which she referred to as her negligée. Mary Cliff, who had never been able to accustom herself to the sight of Ermintrude's flowing sleeves trailing negligently across the butter dishes, and occasionally, if Ermintrude were more than usually careless, dipping into her coffee, had once suggested, with perfect tact, that she really ought to stay in bed for breakfast. But Ermintrude was of a cheerful and a sociable disposition, and liked to preside over the breakfast table, and to discover what were her family's plans for the day. Mary Cliff, who addressed her by the title of aunt, was not in fact her niece, but the cousin and ward of her husband, Wally Carter. She was a good-looking young woman in the early 20s, with a great deal of common sense and a tidiness of mind which years of association with Wally Carter had only served to strengthen. She was fond of Wally in a mild way, but she was not in the least blind to his faults, and had not suffered even a small pang of jealousy when, 5 years before, he had, rather surprisingly, married Ermintrude Fanshawe. The possession of a small but securely tied-up income of her own had ensured her education at a respectable boarding school, but her holidays, owing to Wally's nomadic tendencies and frequent insolvencies, had been spent in a succession of dingy boarding-houses, and enlivened only by the calls of creditors, and the recurrent dread that Wally would succumb to the attractions of one or other of his landladies. When, during a brief period of comparative affluence, he had patronized a large hotel at a fashionable watering place, and had had the luck to captivate Ermintrude Fanshawe, who was an extremely rich widow, Mary, with her customary good sense, had regarded his marriage as providential. Ermintrude was undoubtedly flamboyant, and very often vulgar, but she was good-natured and extremely generous, and so far from resenting the existence of her husband's young ward, behaved to her with the utmost kindness, and would not hear of her leaving Wally's roof to earn her own living. If Mary wanted to work, she said, she could act as her secretary at Palings, and perhaps help with the housekeeping. "Besides, dearie, you'll be a real nice companion for my Vicky," she added. This had seemed to Mary to be a fair arrangement, although when she met Vicky Fanshawe, a precocious schoolgirl 5 years her junior, she could not feel that they were destined to become soulmates. Vicky, however, was being educated, at immense expense, first at a fashionable school on the south coast of England, and later at a still more fashionable finishing school in Switzerland. During the last 2 years, she had spent her holidays abroad with Ermintrude, so that Mary had hardly encountered her,